And joining me now for greater sense of what's playing out in the market scene is Talya Ginsberg from Umthombo Wealth. Talya, thanks so much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sure thing. Let's start off with general markets action, right? What have you made of trade so far? Earnings still filtering through, fresh tariff threats on the chips and pharmaceutical industry, and those reciprocal tariffs also taking effect. Markets somewhat shrugging it off for most part of the week.
Yes, the markets, they certainly have a mind of their own. So the JSE, they've hit record high this week. They're over 100,000 points, as you said. Though that trend in the JSE, as you could even see going back to the graphs you were showing us, it was mostly driven by resources.
Yeah.
South Africa is a very resource-rich country. So gold, PGMs, they've been doing great, and some other commodities have been getting a kick off that. But unfortunately, our sort of real economy, if you want to look at it like that, our industrials, our financials, our banks, perhaps represents more the financial reality of what most South Africans are facing, and they're not that strong year to date, and they've been used mostly as funders to buy these commodity stocks.
And on the commodity scene, right, we have seen the precious metals really rallying for most part of the year, this week as well. In comparison to that, right, we are seeing some uncertainty still on the table with the gold price still rallying, but we are still seeing the likes of your US markets as well as European markets also in the green. Does that point to upbeat earnings perhaps, and maybe, you know, traders applying taco trade yet again?
So in terms of how businesses have been performing, I know in the US there actually has been a lot of this year good earnings, and people were very cynical at the beginning of the year given tariffs, given how volatile everything looks. But a lot of things have been more robust. And yes, there has been weakness in certain sectors. That includes in Europe, the US, South Africa, etc. But the markets don't always represent what's going on the ground. And so it seems that markets are pushing through regardless of fears, perhaps some weakness in certain sectors, etc.
And what have you made of what's been playing out in the oil scene, right? We've been seeing the oil price steadily decline. We have, you know, heard of the quarrels between Trump and Russia, right? Trump also saying that India should stop buying Russian oil.
Sure. So oil, geopolitics and all that, it's a very messy sector and a lot goes into it. And oil, like any commodity, it's hard to say what drives it up and down during one day. But I think the biggest fear that happened during this year was particularly with Israel and Iran, when there's lots of tensions there that seems to have quelled off. And there were no disruptions in the Red Sea, which investors were at one point anticipating. And I think we're just, in terms of oil, we're pretty used to there being quarrels. We're pretty used to seeing it as a bargaining chip, and it just seems to be going on. And so you've seen it's come down, and it could be due to a number of reasons.
Yeah.
Perhaps they're upping supply, demand, etc.
So the price volatility we are seeing could be short term.
It could be short term. I mean, I'm not a commodities expert, and as I said, it's driven by numerous things. Could be supply, demand, could be geopolitical tensions, and it's hard to say during the day what is driving it or where it will go exactly.
All right, let's look at some company news. It is a slim day, but Thungela out with an update. That group warning of an earnings plunge of more than 80%, pointing to tough market conditions as well as restructuring costs. Markets not liking the numbers. The last time I checked, it was down over 8%. Your analysis on that update, Talya?
It didn't surprise me, the update, at all. Coal has been on the down for quite a number of months now, and Thungela obviously got that. If you got the coal bubble in, I think, 2022, you would have done fantastically well on Thungela. But I think markets are underestimating coal. The short-term story looks quite dire with coal, and people are just regarding it as a sort of black energy, but the world still needs to power itself, and there's China, the likes of India, and coal can't just disappear like that while there's no new supply of coal coming online. Well, very few supply blocks come. So I believe if you're patient, the likes of Thungela, Exxaro, I think they could surprise investors to the upside. I can't give you an exact time frame, but I believe over a longer term, view you'd have to look at if you do want to buy into.
And I mean, I think
sector.
I read a report from the IEA, and they've even noted that demand for gold remains quite strong.
Well, we're burning more electricity than ever. There's AI, there's all these data centers, and the world's industrializing.
All right, let's move over to Karoo, right? I see that the share price up over 7% today. Is there a particular reason behind that? I also saw some headlines talking about its push into Vietnam as it continues with its strategy into Southeast Asia.
Yes, Karoo's a very interesting company, and it's one that we've held for quite a while. And it's one of the few truly growth companies in South Africa. And other than the whole theme of cars in South Africa and vehicle tracking, of course, as you said, they're going into Vietnam, they've been in Southeast Asia. And those are huge populations, and their economy and their population is only going to grow. And so it's probably one of the few shares that have, the few companies that has created a South African billionaire in the past 5 years.
And you know, whenever I think of Karoo, I think whether they actually have competition, because they just seem to be winning in that sector.
I believe there is Altec, which is also a great company in its own right. But it is a great business model, and not, I suppose, a great moat as well.
Yeah.
So as you said, they're not too worried. It's not that competition isn't there, but they're not too worried about it. And then, of course, when it comes to Southeast Asia, I'm not sure who the players are there, but I imagine not too many.
All right, before I let you go, let's get your stock pick.
All right. My stock pick is a bit ironic because I've never gambled a day in my life, but it's going to be Sun International. Okay. So you might, as I said, you might see me at a pool in Sun City. You will not see me by the roulette tables. But I think there's a lot going for Sun City. I mean, for Sun International. You might recognize them. They're in the likes of Sun City and Grand West Casino, Carnival City, etc. And they have a lot, as I said, very great cash generation, which is what I love to see. And so they look cheap optically, but if you take the cash into consideration, the valuation's even cheaper than what it looks on paper. So it's trading at now about an 8 to 9 PE. It's arguably even cheaper than that. It has a great dividend yield, which I love dividends. And what else it also has going through it is it has Sunbet, which is, we've seen online gambling has grown quite a lot, not just in South Africa and the world. And they have that as a growth initiative, which is something investors can also look into.
Sun International also has, you know, a top new boss at the helm, who has I think a big background in gaming. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops.
Yes, I'm expecting to see more changes there.
All right.
So it should be fun.
Let's leave it there, Talya. Thanks so much for your time and sharing your insights with us at midday. Now that was Talya Ginsberg from Umthombo Wealth.